accomplished so far. Censure may be appropriate in a body of 435 members, such as Congress, where it's a little hard to get to every one of them with a camera or a pen. But in this particular case, I think we've all made ourselves very clear. And my other concern is simply this. We're proceeding on very little evidence, and with the presumption that the young women that Commissioner Wiener was photographed with have engaged or are engaging in the sex trade either voluntarily or involuntarily. And I think we've done them a tremendous disservice. We actually don't know whether or not these young women are victims or are becoming victims because of our actions here tonight. So since I have made my views quite clear on this, I've called for Commissioner Wiener's resignation. I too will recuse myself from this proceeding.
Thank you. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wiener.
I agree with Commissioner Johnson. I mean, there is some amount of discomfort given that we've heard loud and clear not only from constituents that the business of the county is to move forward on getting a budget approved and working on our priorities like economic development and getting jobs on the ground and making a dent in our criminal justice system. And of course, Ms. Bird making sure that we look at where our dollars are going in the context of healthcare and the University of New Mexico Hospital. But here, it's not about an isolated incident. We didn't get here because of the most recent issue. We got here because there's not been a vehicle to identify accountability. We started here 18 months ago with making sure that employees were accountable, that we set high standards for managers, that we set the bar in terms of what's appropriate and not appropriate. We talked about a brand new culture in Bernalillo County, a culture of professionalism, and it was, quite frankly, very painful and very difficult to explain to one of my staff members. There was no vehicle in the county to hold an elected official accountable for unprofessional behavior. Prior to that, there have been, and they were recounted today, numerous examples of individuals who reminded us that there are several instances of inappropriate behavior, from racial and ethnic slurs and statements to inappropriate communications to staff, leading to where we are today. And while I agree, there does not appear to be a very specific process, if we've all asked for an individual who is elected to resign based on this pattern of behavior, then I think if that does not occur, it is only fair for the public to make a statement about a vote of no confidence or a censure in this regard. I think it's not fair to continue on this path where we're talking about exploitation of women, inappropriate behavior that was identified that would meet the standard if you were an employee for sexual harassment, and that to allow an elected official or an individual representing the county in any other context to continue to behave in this way is inappropriate. And I think this is exactly what we should do, is to make sure that the constituents are heard and that we move to take appropriate action so that there is accountability on this board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? I would just like, I don't know what I can add to what Commissioner Lujan-Grisham has just stated. I agree. This is not about a single incident. There has been a lot of focus tonight and a lot of feedback on the most recent incident, the photographs in Angeles City. I think it is very clear there has been a pattern of behavior, inappropriate communication with staff, to behavior and comments that many people in this community find deeply offensive. And a censure is provided for in Robert's Rules of Order as a mechanism for this board to say the behavior of an individual of this board is not befitting of an elected official who represents Bernalillo County. And I think, you know, there have been questions, okay, so, you know, are these photographs really all that important? And I think all you have to do is look at the blog of John Keeley, the photographer, read what he says about Angeles City. You know, Google sex trafficking, Google Angeles City, and see what you find. I mean, this is not Hooters. You know, this is a very different situation. And I don't think it's excusable to say, hey, this was behavior on your own time. I think we as elected officials are held to a higher standard. And again, this is a pattern of behavior that I think many people in the community have found offensive. And now, again, if you Google Bernalillo County News, what will you find? You will find this story in newspapers around the world, not just in the United States, around the world. And is that really what we want Bernalillo County to be identified with? Thursday, we had a number of people who came to our meeting, and one of the most important, most salient points that those speakers made was the impact this has on people's confidence in their government. You know, we had people here who work with young people, trying to engage them in the political process, people who are really underrepresented, underserved, trying to engage them in the process. And this type of behavior, I think, very much discourages people from wanting to get involved. So, you know, there's people who say this is not important enough. This is not really the key business of this county, of the county commission. I disagree. I think this is really where we need to finally take a stand and say, you know, we don't believe this is appropriate behavior. We don't believe that this is what a member of this board should be doing. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. Commissioner Wiener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a statement I'd like to make. First of all, I want to thank all the people who have contacted me over the past 2 weeks with their positive words of support and encouragement, telling me to keep fighting for them. Their verdict so far has been clear. Hang in there. I was elected to do a job 4 years ago, and it is my constituents in District 4 who I serve and whose voice I hear the loudest. In 28 days, it will rightfully determine my fate. I have worked hard for my district, and my constituents know of the dedication and determination with which I pursue my work. I regret the distraction it has caused our community. The media sideshow has been over the top, and nothing I did warranted this kind of incredible day after day worldwide attention. Good media means being objective and not just piling on. I apologize to the Filipino-American community for the undeserved negative attention that may have been brought to them as a result of this. We all make mistakes. We wish we could do things over. We wish we could take something back that we've said. Like everyone up here, I'm not perfect. None of us ran for the office of Pope. I was in the Philippines on my own time, on my own dime, with my fiance by my side, and visiting with my daughter. I'm a father who wants to be part of his daughter's life, and I have done so since she was born 12 years ago. I have the greatest respect for women. In fact, my daughter and my fiance are both women of color, as proud Filipinos. But aren't there more important issues that we can consume ourselves with? Shouldn't we be trying to solve the jail overcrowding problem, create jobs, lower taxes and water bills, rather than trying to tear each other apart? I want to publicly apologize to my daughter and my fiance. They believe in me and they want me to fight even harder because what is going on is wrong. This is not what our constituents elected us to spend our time doing. The political posturing and hypocrisy is obvious to everyone. Voting to censor me won't solve any of the problems the county is facing. Let me make this clear. Had I been a Democrat, my two colleagues would never have brought this action, denying me my presumption of innocence. After all, they never said a word when making a recent appointment to the County Planning Commission of a Democrat who was found liable for sexual harassment years ago. In fact, large settlements were paid out in those cases because of his behavior. Not one word of opposition out of their mouths. When I was in Washington, D.C. with Commissioner Hart Stebbins, we ran into Congressman Barney Frank off the floor of the House of Representatives. She hugged him and told me how much she admired him. This is the same Barney Frank who who had a male prostitution ring being operated out of his D.C. townhome, and he refused to resign from Congress. I'm sure they didn't support the impeachment of Bill Clinton. I'm sure they would vote for and work for the election of John F. Kennedy if he were running today, even with the knowledge of his many extramarital relationships with women. Two of the speakers against me tonight, Lisa Curtis and Joanne Allen, are Democratic candidates for office in November. How convenient for me to be exploited for their political gain. I apologize to anyone who I may have offended and for exercising poor judgment. As Jimmy Kimmel has suggested to me, I will not be taking any more pictures and will redouble my efforts to be the best person I can be while continuing to fight for my district. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm closing the floor discussion at this time. I will wrap it up and then we'll call for the vote. Each of us is elected by the people of our respective districts to represent them and to conduct the business of Berlin County. What we are not elected to do is to fight with each other, personalize or politicize our service to the public. It is our duty to serve prudently, and each time we are here, we must ask ourselves, are we accomplishing the people's work? A few short days ago, my colleagues, Commissioners Lujan Grisham and Hart Stebbins, called for a special meeting to call and vote to censure Commissioner Wiener. A special meeting was, in my estimation, unnecessary in light of the fact that we had a regular meeting scheduled for today. And had that meeting been put on the agenda, it would not have been at the back of the agenda. An additional meeting is an additional expense to the taxpayer. Historically, special meetings are called for emergencies and time-sensitive matters, and I do not believe this is either. I was asked to attend by two commissioners mentioned earlier with little advance notice, which did not take into account my other commitments. Regarding Commissioner Wiener, he was not censured or recommended for censure by anyone for his past well-publicized actions, and some time has lapsed since. We do not know what he did in the Philippines outside of being in 2 photos and what has been reported by the media. Yet I am very disappointed with Commissioner Wiener's lapses in judgment. His challenged decision-making is the reason we are discussing this matter. We have more important issues that we should be concerned with. In my district, I am concerned on a daily basis with lack of infrastructure, jobs, crime, homelessness, and the list goes on. We should not be here discussing this at all. So yes, I am very disappointed in you, Commissioner Wiener. I have great respect for the news media. I think they aid democracy and shine needed light when it is often most needed. However, these photos appear to be a media-driven promotion, creating a perception and conclusion for the public. This elected body must function differently on facts and not perception, as the censure of an elected official is a grave matter. Some would say that the 2 recent photos of the commissioner automatically somehow connect him to human trafficking and promotion of prostitution. As a father of a 15-year-old daughter, I deplore the notion that anyone, young or old, would choose or be forced to resort to prostitution to survive. We do not have to search half a world away in the Philippines to fight prostitution and its causes. It is well documented where most prostitution occurs in our city. I challenge my fellow commissioners to look into their own districts to determine if they have a problem and begin the fight there, if indeed this matters to them. There were 12 young women murdered and buried in my district, some who were reported to have been involved in prostitution. I attended the candlelight vigil held at Robinson Park. It was sad and painful to see what the families had to endure. Commissioners, I recommend we start our work here and now if we really care about prostitution, its causes and effects. In less than 30 days, voters in District 4 will determine whether Commissioner Wiener has served them or not. Thank you. I will call for the vote. We have a motion and a second. All in favor to censure Commissioner Wiener, vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on a 3-0. Thank you.
share my oversight. We do need to have a motion